Hello, and thank you very much for tuning in to the podcast series by the New Silk Road Project. I'm your host today, Charles Stevens, the founder of the New Silk Road Project. This series is dedicated to understanding and raising awareness of one of the most important development strategies of the 21st century, China's Belt and Road Initiative. The centerpiece of the New Silk Road Project, an initiative supported by Jeep, CSIS, Magellan Capital, the University of St Andrews and Shira, was to travel the course of the Silk Road economic belt from London to Yiwu in eastern China, interviewing the key actors and academics along its course. We will have to apologise in advance for some of the tangential moments in this podcast series, and also the variable quality of audio footage. We do hope this series sheds important light into China's growing global presence and the significant changes taking place across Eurasia. The growing infrastructure links and economic connectivity is a much discussed aspect of the Belt and Road Initiative. But one of the less discussed aspects are the growing educational partnerships and cooperation across Eurasia. This was an aspect which we discussed with Giorgi Gaganidze, Dean of Tbilisi State University, the oldest academic institution in the Caucasus region. He told us about the growing partnership, including a huge delegation which had recently arrived from Beijing University.
Okay, I'm Giorgi Gaganidze, Professor and Dean of the Faculty of Economy and Business of Tbilisi State University. So this is my background. I am mainly working on the competitiveness problems, on the export strategies, on strategic management issues, which are the major field of my interest.
And foreign investment is central to the Georgian economy. What is being done to attract investment at the moment and also expand the role?
Okay, first of all, investments in Georgia have been driven by Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan because of our location. Till the 2005, this was the major driven forces for the investment. Then the Georgian government launched new program, which was called the aggressive privatization, which did not have quite good understanding what type of investors we are looking for. And after, we try to create some opportunities for the investors and try to build up really mutually beneficiary partnerships based on the fact that first, we have a good geostrategic location. Second, we are open. Just the only country which has the free trade regimes with European Union in China is Georgia. Plus, we are striving to achieve the same free trade agreement with United States. We have the GSP status, and we are the strategic partners, which is mentioned under the special agreement of 2009. So now the major opportunities for investors are the location and openness of Georgia to the world.
And the Georgian government has highlighted the importance of technology transfer to the economy. Can the Belt and Road Initiative help to achieve this, and if so, in what ways?
First of all, we should look at the picture in a broader sense, If we could realize the Belt and Road Initiative, Georgia, due to the fact of the geostrategic location, would be one of the excellent places to allocate the special transport hub here. So, as the special transport hub, you will need all technologies which are connected with this. I don't mean only the technologies of how to put some of the lots here, but also the computer technologies, everything which is related to the logistic hubs. This would be one and quite interesting step.
And a significant step forward in Sino-Georgian relations was the the recent Belt and Road Forum held in Tbilisi. What significant progress came out of this, and how do you think this poses Georgian-Sino relations to develop over the next 3 to 5 years?
The first and the most important thing is that now the majority of our population is aware of this problem. The Georgian businesses are looking for the opportunities which could be driven from this. And also quite important, now Georgian government is aware that this is one of the major directions for economic development. So if you are making some of the decisions, then you should bear in mind the fact that you are looking to be the part of this new initiative.
And are you able to highlight any case studies of this, specific Georgian companies which have experienced this dynamic?
Honestly speaking, I don't know about the Georgian companies by itself, but quite a lot of studies have been undertaken and carried out by the different NGOs. Then they look at the different cases. So, for example, train which starts in Beijing and comes through Georgia to Europe, then what would be the cost of one container? And then you will compare the costs with the speed of the delivery, and you will highlight what are the bottlenecks and what are the problems. So quite a lot of this have been done, and all our major infrastructural projects, like making the major highway from Tbilisi to Poti, they are part of this initiative.
And as other parts of the initiative, the Kars-Tbilisi-Baku railway, how do you think this enhances the...
Yes, sure. This is, we are quite well linked with Azerbaijan. But honestly speaking, what we could do with this railway, what is the use of this railway? The idea was that it should be linked with Turkey and then to the European Union. This was the idea, because if you are going to Baku, okay, you could do it by railway if you like, but you could easily do it by airplane, you could go by car, so there is no sense. This railway means and works as the part of this initiative.
And do you see that as something set to improve in the future with the improvements to the railway lines in Iran or Turkey per se?
I think that what we need is the improvement in Turkey, but the major problem is that we have the different standards. As a part of the former Soviet Union, we are using what we are calling a wide. And in Europe, you are using narrow. This is a major obstacle. But any of such technical obstacles could be undertaken, because then it's only the question of the costs, nothing more.
And on that basis, do you think this middle corridor can ever really provide a viable alternative to the more established Eurasian land bridge across Russia?
The new corridor is the idea of the European business to have the way which is not going through Russia, because Russia is not politically stable. And just imagine you are introducing sanctions to Russia, and then the majority of your products are moving through Russia. What will happen? So the idea was from the Europe to have the new alternative way. This was the idea, not to go through Russia. Okay, then if you will look, then it's much better to have through one territory, Russia, Ukraine, and then Poland. They are using the same code, so then you don't have any problems.
Well, then, looking at other infrastructure projects that bypass Russia, the TANAP plays an important geopolitical and economic role to the Caucasus. Would you be able to highlight perhaps some of the benefits it brings to the region?
No, first of all, TANAP is a special pipeline to have the natural gas to Europe, And this is the same, not to having the only one supplier as Russia, to have at least one another supplier. Thus, the TANAP is also the just the idea of European business not to be so dependent on the Russian. So this is the major idea. And this is the same as Baku Tbilisi Ceyhan, this is the Shah Deniz 1 and Shah Deniz 2. All these projects, they have the only one idea and meaning. Europe not to be so dependent on Russian natural gas.
So do you then think that business leaders are the main driver of large development strategies instead of political elites?
I don't think so. I think that the political elites are now playing the major role. Because without the political, just to say, elements, then you could not drive the projects like the TANAP. It's not the pure economic or business project. This is more part of the politics. Then you have some also different projects, Nabucco, for example. TANAP was one of the opportunities. Nabucco was another.
And although the east-west highway is being developed, the infrastructure in Georgia internally is still reasonably limited for a country with the ambition to play a key role in an initiative which relies on good infrastructure. Can Georgia's role be viable given this problem at the moment?
You know, the problem could be solved, but this is the problem of the from which point of view you will look. You will look at the glass and say that it's half empty or it's half full. It depends, you know. When Georgia would have more transportation, then more funds would be allocated. For the limited resources of Georgian budget, even what is doing, this means that the Georgia sees the infrastructure development as the major priority for our economic development.
And what are your opinions on other forms of cooperation vis-a-vis the Belt and Road Initiative? May that be FDIs, educational partnerships? Perhaps you would be happy to speak about that as your role as an academic.
Yeah, for sure this will bring the quite different forms of the partnership. Just a few days ago there was a huge delegation from the Beijing University, and they are keen to build up partnerships with us. And so bring all their schools, the Beijing University is quite a big one, from all different types, and we discuss the opportunities, what we could do.
What I mean, would you be happy to elaborate a bit on the key elements of the relationship and how successful you think it may be in the future?
Yes, sure, for sure. For sure we could find out the ways how to cooperate.
Okay, and then one or two last questions. Then.
Okay.
Being a Georgian yourself, how do you feel that the perceptions and public awareness of China have changed in the last couple of years?
Oh, you know, it's quite difficult to answer because the knowledge about the China is quite limited. So some persons think that they know something, but in reality they don't know anything. And China by itself, it's not just to say the one nation. As we look at the Great Britain, where more or less we know that there is England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, then it's okay, more or less we know this. But regarding the China, we think that all guys who are living there are speaking the same language, and it's not the right. They are quite different. In some cases, absolutely different. So I think that we need to raise awareness about the history, traditions, about the future, and what China is doing now, for example. Yeah.
And do you think that this lack of awareness is the greatest challenge to the Belt and Road Initiative?
I don't think that this is a major challenge for this initiative. I don't think so, because this initiative is bringing a lot of benefits. For example, if you will look, many of Chinese companies are operating in different parts of Georgia. They don't have any problems with the Georgians there because they are bringing investments, they are creating new jobs, so there is no problem. Chinese by itself, they are not aggressive guys.
And my final question, if you were going to summarize the Belt and Road Initiative in one word, what is that word for you?
Globalization.